Hello and welcome back to Talk of Black Mirror, a mini-series from Talk of the Townsends that we've not quite figured out name-wise yet, but I guess Talk of Black Mirror makes sense.
Yeah, would it be toy with Talk of the Black Mirror? I mean, you kept calling it the Black Mirror the other day.
I did keep calling it the Black Mirror. Welcome to Talk of the Black Mirror. I'm Benedict Townsend.
And I'm Hannah Townsend.
And today we are talking about episode 2 of the latest series, which is called Bête Noire.
Do you know what Bête Noire means?
I do, I looked it up.
Yes, so did I.
Do you want to say what it means?
No, you go.
It's French for black beast, and it basically just means a thing that you want to avoid, a thing that is like nasty and scary and you want to shun. And I guess in this instance, Verity Green, a name I retained because they said it like a million times. They just kept going, Verity Green. I guess she would be the Bête Noire because she was avoided in school.
Yes.
Top line, what did you think of this episode?
I didn't really like Bête Noire.
Interesting.
I'm not going to lie. I felt it was a little bit undercooked in quite a few areas for me. I wasn't that taken by a lot of it. I thought the Mandela effect thing was so cool, but it wasn't done in a way that I particularly enjoyed.
Well, we'll run through the actual plot and go through it, but I will say top line, I kind of agree with you.
Really?
Which is weird because I've seen online people love this episode, which by the way is fully allowed. Sometimes when you say you don't like something, people are like, are you saying it's illegal to like it? It's like, no, you're allowed to like it. I liked it just fine. I think Black Mirror is always of a certain level of quality, but I agree. I think the Mandela effect stuff was not really used enough. I think it was a little undercooked. I think all of the twists were not really twists and were very predictable.
There were so many things that actually, one, didn't even really make sense. And two, you know, her having this other friend that she apparently killed who we never saw. There was just so much to it. For me, it just felt like a little bit messy. It
felt like a bit of it kind of reminded me of Lola Young. It kind of felt like a bit of a filler episode or a cheaper episode because it basically all took place in like one office room with a small cast. It wasn't super CGI-y.
But I think you can still make a great Black Mirror without those things. I saw an interview where the cast of Bête Noire were talking. They spoke to Charlie Brooker and they were like trying to get a feel of their characters, trying to really understand what it was behind them and, you know, what had led them to this place. And I think, and all the headlines have said, you know, they're both just really petty. Yeah. They were like, Charlie Brooker sums it up in 5 words. And I just think like, that isn't strong enough for this girl's hatred of a girl who was geeky, in her words, at school. Yeah. Why she hated her so deeply from the offset. I think it would have made way more sense if she had been actually having an affair with the teacher. Oh, yeah. If, you know, there were so many more reasons why did she hate her so much?
Well, I mean, that can be the point, which is just that sometimes bullying is really simple and sometimes people are just mean. But I agree of like, that's not that interesting. It's more interesting if there's something behind it. Like if you want to make that the thing that they're just petty, that can happen. It's not the most compelling story ever told.
Do you know that Bête Noire actually has a Mandela effect in the episode?
I do. I was going to try and surprise you with this. This is interesting.
This is interesting. So they obviously shot 2 different versions, Bernie's to Barney's and Barney's to Bernie's with kind of the chicken shop. Yes. And Netflix the algorithm is somehow working out and pushing out 2 different versions. So people are seeing different takes.
Which is really fun, and that's a great way to use Netflix. You know, it's like Bandersnatch, famously, where they had a choose your own adventure thing. I mean, like, if you're going to have these futuristic streaming platforms that are different to TV, you might as well use them. If I want to be really cynical about this, you know, you and I agree that this is maybe a weaker episode. I feel like putting in that gimmick of the 2 different shots, that feels like a bit of seasoning you put on an episode afterwards to maybe zhuzh it up a bit. Because the episode itself, I don't think is super strong. But I do think it's a cool thing to do. And I actually wish Black Mirror would do way more of that stuff.
Yes, I totally agree. I think it's quite nice, though, how they've let people more organically work that out. Yes. You know, they came out a couple of days ago now, and it's quite nice that they've like let it marinate. And now people are saying, hey, I saw this and this. That's really fun. But I agree. I think there was so much they could have done with the Mandela effects. It's nice. Yeah. I don't think that it brings the episode up to be an all-time great for me just because it's got that in it.
Agree. It certainly makes it notable.
Yes.
So we've got a young woman called Maria, played by Sienna Kelly. She is a chef or like comes up with recipes or something. We actually opened the episode with a news report about someone dying in Camberwell. And I nudged you and went, Camberwell, because we used to live in Camberwell.
We used to live in Camberwell.
And that was such a, I think when you watch enough Black Mirror, the second you hear something like, a person has died, you immediately go, okay, I'm going to log that for later.
Yeah.
That's definitely going to come back. But she does like food testing or whatever. Do you ever find in shows sometimes when they do a bit of setup about the character, like they show you their job, you almost in your head are a bit like yada, yada, yada. Because it's like, I know this episode's probably not going to be about food testing. I know we have to build her out as a person by giving her this job, but like, I don't need to see the scenes of her and her boyfriend being like, this is the most important, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. For me, a lot of the episode felt like that, of like, we're a bit slow to get, it was when we realized it was a Mandela effect thing, we were both like, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Where's this going to go? But then the bits in between the Mandela effects happening were quite slow.
We're then introduced to Verity Green.
She's in the food testing focus group.
Well, she's not supposed to be, but then suddenly her name is on the list.
Yes.
Very suspicious. Played by Rosie McEwen. Very striking actress who just looks a lot like Nicole Kidman.
Very much like Nicole Kidman.
Not to downplay her talents, but she looks a lot like Nicole Kidman, is also very good at playing a villain. I wasn't really familiar with anyone in this episode apart from Doc Brown himself, who played the boss. But I thought everyone was really good. But she comes in and right away, she is touching up this necklace in a way that I personally immediately clocked.
Yeah, you were like, that necklace is going to be part of it. I mean, usually it's more breadcrumby. It's like, oh, she was holding that necklace all along. It was very in your face.
It was extremely telegraphed. And I know that like, I am a real nerd about this stuff. I'm looking for this stuff. And I know that a lot of audience members aren't even really looking at the screen. So you've got to telegraph this stuff sometimes. I thought it was a little literally heavy-handed at times, how much she was just tugging on that thing. So when that was revealed, again, as sort of a twist of, oh my God, it's the necklace. I'm like, is that a reveal?
Yeah.
It was so in your face. She comes in, she actually likes the miso chocolate thing they're making or whatever.
And gets everyone else to like it on the second try.
Yeah, you're right. Everyone tries it, doesn't like it, but then suddenly they do. What's going on?
What's going on?
I do think an interesting thing about the main character in Bête Noire, Maria, is that she's not very likable at any point. And I don't think the episode really tries to make her likable.
Yeah, I get that, because it was like, why does she have this absolute hatred? I mean, yeah, they're both petty, but this girl didn't actually do anything to her. If anything, she did something to this girl. So why does she hate her so much?
You have the reveal that she was a bully and stuff, but they don't even really do anything in the early scenes to make her seem like super nice. The only thing you know about her is that she does this cooking job, but she's not like a super warm person. She has a boyfriend. She's not super nice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a nice person who's revealed to be evil. Like, she's kind of fine throughout.
Do you think they wanted us to like her?
I kind of think no. Or at least that wasn't a priority for Charlie Brooker. Like,
I guess maybe with the ending of her, coming out on top, maybe it wasn't supposed to be she was a nice person. Maybe it was supposed to be like, oh God, now we've got this awful person in charge, because she was never particularly nice.
Exactly. I mean, we can talk about the ending when we come to it, but it's almost a negative ending, really.
Yeah.
So Verity Green, she gets herself a job at the company, a job that didn't exist before. Very suspicious. And then she starts working with Maria, and basically things just start kind of going wrong for Maria, and she starts thinking she's a bit crazy.
Yes. And I think that it's all building up. There's little bits, bit by bit. We've spoken at the beginning about the Barneys. She thinks the shop was called one thing because she sees a cap with it on every single day. I think when it really started to heat up was the gelatin, because that was the time where we had seen her say something multiple times.
Yes.
We'd seen Maria say something multiple times. We'd also seen it in an email, and then it suddenly changed. So it was like, okay, things are changing.
Yeah, and they did the quite smart thing of having her, what was it called, like Carragher or something, and her making the point of saying it lots of times. She didn't know how to spell it. We watched her type it wrong. So it was really planted in our minds that she definitely said the Carragher, the seaweed thing.
Yes.
And so when it wasn't that, you're like, oh no, like something is up here, because they really hammered that home.
Agreed.
And the thing of like her not being able to spell it is quite a smart way of like getting them to say it lots of times. I will say the subplot, or whatever you want to call it in this episode, of that woman yelling about her milk, I actually found so annoying. Because at a certain point you are just watching someone go like, who's took it? Like, and I know they kind of vaguely tied it into the plot at the end, but I'm like, that was just annoying for me, how much this woman was screaming about milk. That's not fun TV.
Well, the milk was actually kind of a plot hole, because the milk had been disappearing since before Verity was even at the place. So unless she'd rubbed the necklace when she came in and they'd all imagined that stuff happening, the milk had gone missing from before she was even employed. So then when she drank all the milk and she kind of insinuated she'd been doing it all along, well, it'd been happening before she was there.
Yeah, you're so right. Like who
was
stealing?
drinking it before?
Yeah, so weird.
So that for me was one of quite a few things that I didn't love this episode and didn't fully work because that had been a long-term problem.
Yes, agreed. And then we have this drop at a certain point. We have two drops. One, that at school, Verity was really bullied and someone made up this vicious rumor that she had like a sexual relationship with a teacher. Now, the problem with this is, and I think it's a problem of only having an hour or whatever to work with, right? We have been introduced to one character that went to school with Verity, and that's our main character, Maria. So who else is it going to be? Like, so when the twist happens that she was the one who made up the rumor, it's like, but it has to be her. We haven't met a single other person who went to school. We've only heard the name of another person who has died. So it's not really a twist or a reveal when it's like, it was her. Because it's like,
of course,
mathematically, who else can it be?
Yeah.
Although, to be generous, maybe that's the point. Maybe you're meant to think from the second we hear that, you're meant to think it's going to be her.
Yeah.
And there's meant to be a sort of inevitability to it. I don't know. Either way, it's not a twist.
Yeah, it makes it kind of a revenge plot, but of something that we don't really care about. I don't know. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, I didn't really care if she did or didn't make up this rumor. It was so long ago.
Yeah, but that's the point. Verity still did care.
Right.
And I think one of the elements that I did like the most in this is when Verity's like, I have basically magical powers. I've been everything. I've been Empress of the Universe. I've done every beautiful thing. And yet the one thing I can't escape is basically my trauma. And so now I'm coming back here to get revenge on you to try and get out of that. And I do like that as a message of like, you know, it's like that thing people say of like, you can go on holiday, but you'll still be there.
Yeah.
Like you've got to kind of deal with your stuff. Obviously she's dealing with it in an interesting way.
Yeah, an extreme way. Yeah, I get all that. I found it very hard to get invested in these two ladies. I think they both did a good job in these roles, but I found it very hard to be invested, to care. Also, this other friend from the school died. We didn't see anything about it off screen. That felt strange. Like, there were just so many elements where I was like, this just feels really underdone. Like, we've actually spent quite a lot of time with these two characters, and you don't need to necessarily like them, but you need to like be invested. And I felt even at the end when she was in her house, I just didn't feel that connected to anything that was happening.
Yeah, you're completely right. I think that's a thing that really bugs me when people are like, you have to like and support your main character.
No, totally not.
All. But also, if you're going to make her unlikable, make her more unlikable, the main character, or at least put some kind of reasoning into why she's doing this stuff. Even if the reasoning is like, I am sadistic and mean, ramp that up a bit.
Sure, because it kind of plays with your brain when you're watching something, and like you do always want someone to root for, or you want like to feel excited that a story might go one way, that, you know, either Verity's going to get that revenge finally, or that, you know, Maria is actually this evil person who's going to win. I didn't really feel either of those things.
I felt myself more leaning towards supporting Verity.
Yeah.
When she did her big reveal and then like scarily drank the milk, and then Maria was crying, which I thought was a little intense. I'm like, no, sorry, I'm still on Verity's side. Like, she was horribly bullied. Like, I know she's doing mean stuff around the office, but I've been given some reason to support her, versus Maria, who I've not actually been given any reason to root for, apart from just that she's the main character.
Yeah.
And at the end, actually, I was quite sad that Verity died and the other one got to win. I like that they did a bit of a downbeat ending where it's like the bully wins ultimately.
Yeah, and it's like Queen of the Universe or whatever.
Yeah.
It's such an extreme ending. I don't even know what to say. I think it doesn't even matter to me that the ending was like so out of the box. I could have got on board with that. I don't even mind that it was like techie, but not super, super techie. Mm-hmm. It was a bit more fantastical.
I mean, it was just magic. I mean,
it was magic.
Basically just magic. I know she said the word quantum, which is like a real shortcut people use now in sci-fi to do anything that's magic. They're like, well, we're using quantum, because it's like no one really understands that.
Yeah, of course. But I could have got on board with all of that. And I loved the idea of it being around a Mandela effect. I just didn't particularly like this.
Yeah, fair. I also thought the bit at the end where she shot Verity and then got in a shootout with the police.
Yes.
I'm like, would a person do this?
Yeah, exactly that. I rewatched the ending this morning, and I rewatched that and I was like, that was such a massive gamble. And what you're telling me, in his own words, Charlie Brooker, she did all this because she's petty? Really? She's going to gamble her whole life because someone she bullied at school now works at her company. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, she's done some bits to her, but she's gonna what? She's gonna shoot her. She's literally gonna gamble her whole life away. And the whole reasoning Charlie Brooker says is because she's petty.
Well, yes. I do think the thing of like grabbing the gun and shooting Verity, I can almost understand because it's like, okay, this is a person with magical powers who is evil, who's going to ruin my life. So I can understand her doing that. Her then turning around and getting in a shootout with the police. I'm like, why wouldn't you just put your hands up and surrender? Or so crazy for like a civilian,
yes,
right, who has realistically probably never been in a room with a gun, let alone fired one, is now going to just get in a shootout with the police?
Yeah.
And again, this is a character we've not really had defined. So I'm like, is Maria like this? Is Maria a gun person now?
Yeah.
And then, then she shoots the police. Then we get this, kind of fun ending where she's like queen of the universe. But like, I kept expecting during that shootout, Verity to snap her fingers and it to have all been like a mean fantasy she was putting in Maria's head. So, dreaming of shooting me, were you? Or something. Just because I thought it was so insanely unrealistic that she actually would just be shooting at the police.
Yeah.
But I did kind of enjoy it. I always get a bit of a kick out of Black Mirror, but it just felt underbaked, didn't it?
It felt really underbaked, but I appreciated the imagination behind it. It just wasn't executed in a way I particularly enjoyed. But consensus online, I'm seeing it on lists of high-ish up. Not number one for anyone. I haven't seen it as number one, but high-ish up on the lists of the new ones. So, hey.
Maybe we're wrong.
There
was a moment where she came out of the shower and for a second I was like, oh, is there going to be nudity in Black Mirror? And of course there wasn't. But it's so funny because there was a close-up shot of her exploded head when she was shot. It's just so, there's this classic thing of like people are so squeamish about nudity, but fine with violence.
Yeah.
And it's so strange that on streaming and stuff, you would never, I'm not saying I wanted the nudity or needed it, but it's quite funny that they'd be like, well, we have to keep the towel on her. You can see her brains though.
Anyway, that was episode number 2.
Bet Noir. But there's loads of other episodes that other people have really been raving about. I've heard a lot of talk about Hotel Reverie.
Apparently that's the best one. So we're chugging on, we're getting through them, and we will be back with you soon to chit chat about another one.
Should we do a grand ranking of all the episodes we've seen so far?
So it's going to be Common People at number 1 and Bet Noir at number 2.
That's the ranking. Anyway, let us know what you think. You can email us, talkofthetownsends@hotmail.com. You can also DM us on Instagram.
Or you can fax us.
Or fax us. I mean, listen, just please follow the Instagram. Could someone follow the Instagram? I'm Benedict Townsend.
And I've been Hannah Townsend.
Thank you, bye.